Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and if you've been like me, you've probably been reading about weird drones flying over New Jersey. Now, this is something that's been pretty popular for the last few days, and it's something that if you've ever been following anything alien related, and I know I have, you've been reading a whole lot about these mysterious, weird drones flying all over New Jersey. People are capturing footage. There have been entire statements by politicians, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the FAA, discussing this wild phenomenon. So I wanted to go into the entire thing, deep dive into it. I've researched basically this entire situation, and today I present to you the findings, and at least my analysis into these weird, crazy drones. Is it the military testing something? Is it a foreign military? Is it aliens? That is something we're going to try and find out today on this episode of Wild Internet Shenanigans. So, December 6, 2024, I actually saw this one post on 4chan. Drones have been flying over NJ for several weeks now. The FBI has been investigating for over 2 weeks without making any official statements on what's going on. So, of course, one of the top things after a bump was basically aliens are going to be showing up all over the world. They still won't talk to us, just letting us know they're there. Sort of like when kids are misbehaving, but then dad shows up from work. Authorities are scrambling to suppress UAP sightings, and they're hoping this all just goes away. Currently, they're contracting drone companies to fly whatever drone they can in New Jersey. So Homeland Security, the feds, the DOD can post photos and videos to debunk all of this. So is this some mass delusion campaign done by the government? Well, let's go deeper than 4chan before we try to figure this out. So, one of the first videos, the actual first post that I saw floating around was from November 18, 2024, where an account known as Jersey Bets was basically showcasing these drones. Unidentified drones have flooded the skies in New Jersey. So here I'm going to show you the video of one of these drones right here. So you can see very carefully, you've got a drone and what appears to be actual FAA compliant lighting going on. Now, it's kind of hard to tell if this is a drone or it could actually be fixed wing aircraft. And that's because we're dealing with cell phone footage, okay? So obviously if you have a smartphone, most modern day smartphone cameras are pretty good, but when you're dealing with low level light like this and, autofocus and of course things like shutter speeds, you have to, again, question how, good this footage can really be. And it's kind of hard to tell, but this is one of the first actual pieces shared around. So obviously at this moment in time, people started getting weirded out. Where this was located was a place known as Morris County, from my understanding. Now, I've been through Morris County a fair bit of times. Me and the wife actually end up going through here just when we have to get to New York. So this is not like a unknown drive for me. This is usually when you get out of Pennsylvania all the way into New York through New Jersey. And the thing is, if you've never driven here in your life, it's kind of I don't want to say a dead zone, but it's kind of like this empty area in before you actually get into a major urban area like New York City. So throughout this area and plenty of other counties, there have been reports of these drones flying above them. So obviously for the residents living here, they have to question what the fuck is going on. So about like a week later, November 26th, the Federal Bureau actually comes in and reports on this situation. And in fact, even recently, as of December 12th, they actually issued an actual statement with the Department of Homeland Security for these New Jersey drones. So as of right now, basically, the FBI and the DHS have said that they have no evidence at this time that those reported drone sightings pose a national security or public safety threat or have a foreign nexus. The FBI, DHS, and the other feds, in close coordination with New Jersey State Police, continue to deploy personnel and technology to investigate the situation and confirm whether the reported drone flights are actually drones or are instead manned aircraft or other inaccurate sightings. So the problem with some of the stuff here is when it comes to drone spotting, there's been such an overflow of information that people are questioning whether the footage they're looking at is necessarily even a drone. So I want to go over some of the actual misinformation first before I go back into looking at some of the drones, because I've seen some pretty viral posts and I wanted to really discuss them. So one of them was this post where apparently people were shooting at these drones flying in the air. So listen to this one. Now, you might be like, whoa, are they firing tracer rounds at this fucking drone up there? No, ladies and gentlemen, if you look very closely, this video comes from an account known as Robert Earl White, otherwise known as the Order of Light. 15,000 subscribers, 10 days ago this was posted, and if you actually look at it, there ain't no gunshots going off.
Drones in South Jersey. They're down here now.
Now, for all credit considered, that actually does appear to look like a drone to me. It's got the green lights going on over here. It doesn't appear to be giving off, like, I would say, typical FAA lighting. Let's kill the audio real quick. Actually, no, it does give, like, actual lighting over there, but it doesn't look like fixed wing stuff for me. Again, it's really difficult for me because this is not the best footage. Obviously, we're capturing this with, like, a smartphone camera, not any camera that is designed to be capturing at this low of light. But that could be a plane, I'm not sure, but it looks and resembles closer to like a drone for me, or at least at the rate it's going. It's really difficult to tell this because if you don't have date, time, and location footage, you know, this really could be anything. But that is probably the more realistic looking, I guess, drone that I've seen. And of course, the title Mysterious Military Drone is a bit of a questionable thing to say. If this is a military drone, military drones can operate at a height so high and their shape can be like either the size of a bird or like an MQ like Reaper, like, you know, the shit that blows up people from like, you know, the goddamn fucking stratosphere. And usually at that height, at that distance, and the fact that if this was a military drone, there would be no lights at all, period. And it would be incredibly difficult to detect. So it either is a plane or it is actually like somebody's like AliExpress drone flying around, or it could just be like a DJI Mavic floating around in the air. One other piece that I saw was this one right here, which was apparently captured at the US Capitol, which shows an alleged drone orbiting around the government capitol. So watch this.
I'm telling you, they're not moving. They're staying stationary. They're hovering.
They kind of look wide too.
Look at the lights changing.
It is moving.
No, it's not.
It looks like it.
Yeah, but they're not moving. That's an airplane. Hang on.
Which one? The one closest to the Capitol building?
Hang on, let me zoom that a little bit. Yeah, that's an airplane.
But the one in the middle, that one.
That's an airplane. You can see it moving.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to cut this off right here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is from like UFO documentarians, and the reality of this is that this was captured at an angle which is hitting right at Reagan, I think, International Airport near like DC or right at it. So if you're looking at the perspective of a plane flying towards a landing, it's not going to look like it's going blitzingly fast from left to right or right to left or whatever. If it's flying towards you, it's going to look stationary. I literally have this exact flight path in front of my bedroom. Like if I stand in front of my bedroom window, I literally can see floating lights. And it looks like it's a fucking UFO orbiting, but it really is a plane heading towards me, towards a landing strip, okay? So it's not something that's super duper wild. It is something that, again, can easily be disproven. And again, this is not what a drone looks like. This could easily be a fixed-wing airplane. And again, at that distance, this is exactly what you should be seeing. So it's not a super shock. But of course, there were other situations too, where again, people were looking at these exact like lights in the sky and wondering if they were drones. And again, with footage like this, it's a little difficult to tell if this is drones or it could just be airplanes flying in a direction because you don't have the quality to necessarily deal with anything here. One of the interesting pieces was this from News Nation, where a crew filmed these New Jersey mysterious drones. So watch this.
The experience I had last night, however, changed the way I feel about this story completely. What I saw was more sophisticated than I ever imagined. Take a look.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 lights, 6 lights.
I didn't believe what I was seeing, but what was I seeing? We're here in central Jersey. We've been looking for the past hour. I think we've seen about 40 or 50 of these drones. In fact, there's one over my shoulder right there. One after another, these drones appeared in the night sky. If you look real close, they look like fixed-wing aircraft, about 8 to 10 feet wide, colorful, white blinking lights.
That is not a plane.
Definitely not an airplane, but...
So it looks like a fixed-wing airplane, but then not an airplane. Like if you look very carefully at it, it's hard to tell because again, the cameras that we are using are not capturing this appropriately, right? Like it's tough to work with the detail. but it actually does look closer to fixed wing aircraft, right? Like you've got the actual wings over there. You've got what appear to be like FAA compliant lighting. Now, the thing is, if that is a drone, right? If that is like any kind of a drone, and it is floating at that point, I'm sure the military, or at least the government, would actually have some identifier for it. To give you an idea of how seriously the government takes drones, this is a press release from December 11th, literally a few days ago, where in Northern California, a Asian person, a Chinese national living in the United States, was actually brought forth to the United States Justice Department because they were flying a fucking drone near Vandenberg Space Force Base. So Yin Piao Zhao, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right, nearly 40 years old, is charged with failure to register an aircraft, not providing transportation, and violation of national defense airspace. The defendant allegedly flew a drone over a military base and took photos of the base's layout, which is against the law. Now, the thing is, if there are drones capturing any aspect of the United States military or just any real government installation, they will do very quickly to take care of that, because obviously these are secrets that the government does not want coming out, especially when it comes to, a Space Force base like this. The security of our nation is of paramount importance, and my office will continue to promote the safety of our nation's military personnel and facilities. And this is just any U.S., government agent saying this, obviously. And this guy almost effectively got away with it if the U.S. police didn't stop him from boarding a plane headed to China that was headed out of San Francisco. And of course, if you want to get into it, right, the actual maximum penalty, from my understanding, according to this, is if convicted, the defendant would face a statutory maximum sentence of 4 years in federal prison. So again, the reason I'm bringing this up is obviously if this was, people using this for nefarious purposes, this most definitely is under the watch of any government agency, okay? Remember, when it comes to national security, the government does not fuck around in this case, okay? So with all of these drones floating above New Jersey, and still apparently to this day, people are really asking the question who is behind this? And obviously your elected officials, people who are in office, are asking some pretty serious questions. And there's actual frustration because it appears that the federal government actually appears to maybe know more than they're letting on, which wouldn't really shock me. Anytime a government agency is brought up to talk about something this absurd, generally you don't really find out about the entire truth until well after things are completely cleared for release. So if you're a politician, you ask some pretty serious questions. And one of those serious questions and one of those serious points being brought up is apparently there was an Iranian mothership that was responsible for sending these drones in.
Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones. That mothership is off, I'm going to tell you the deal. It's off the east coast of the United States of America.
So I don't know if that shit was artificial intelligence, the way that he was speaking. It's so hard nowadays to see what is AI and what isn't. But that's a pretty fucking serious claim. Now, I wanted to dive deep into this guy's claim and see exactly what he was kind of going off about. So this is the actual apparent Iranian aircraft carrier that had these drone ships. Now, this is apparently the Shahid Bagheri, which is actually Iran's new drone carrier. And this is coming from NDTV, okay, right out of New Delhi, all right? This is just shared around. So these are satellite images that apparently belong to this Iranian vessel. Now, here's the thing, okay? If this Iranian vessel was off the east coast of the United States, you are talking about a pretty massive escalation of warfare right there. And even looking closer into this drone situation, this one actual ship, the Shahid Bagheri, which was actually apparently anchored off of Bandar Abbas in the Persian Gulf, so not even close to the east coast from anyone's understanding, this is the only drone ship that I've heard of from Iran. They could have something else, but again, if it was within the vicinity of the eastern coast of the United States in any capacity, in any serious threatening capacity, the US Navy would be on that like flies on shit. And this is something where, look, if this was actually a serious situation, this would have been brought up and it would have actually been, handled. And it would have, again, probably sent relations between, Iran and the US, which are already at a fucking all-time low, closer to the goddamn, closer to the goddamn center of the earth. So if you're looking at the situation over here, the Pentagon ended up coming out and saying, no, this is not true. In fact, they went and said there is no evidence at this time that the reported drone sightings pose a national security or a public safety threat or have a foreign nexus. And again, the reality of it is too, if this is like an Iranian thing, and this is a little bit dangerous for like a politician to say, because again, this guy really had no real understanding of the situation. Again, if you logically thought about it, if the Iranians had drones that they were just launching into the United States to spy on people, why the fuck would these drones follow FAA guidelines and show lights? Like, seriously, this is like some of the images captured. Like, that is either Sam Fisher's goggles, an alien rectum, or drones spying on people. And again, if this is a military drone, which is what Iran's drones would have been, why would they not fly high enough into the air and again be running at a full stealth capacity? When the United States sends drones to spy on other countries, and they do, let's not pretend that it doesn't happen. Do you think the United States has drones that are easily detectable and shootable from the ground? Come on now, it just doesn't make any sense, especially when you're trying to invade and spy on a country like the United States, so close to New York City, by the way. Look, it's one thing, right? Like, if you're going to believe in a conspiracy and you're going to believe the US government is all powerful and knowledgeable, then you also have to understand that they're not dumb enough to not be able to deal with drone threats that are this mistakenly done. Iran might not be as powerful as the United States, but they're not fucking brain dead to not spy, at least in the best possible way, okay? It just doesn't make any sense. Now, this reminds me a lot of the Chinese balloon incident. This happened like in 2023, so almost 2 years ago. Time really does fly by. This one Chinese balloon basically flew through the contiguous United States, Canada, and I believe it made it all the way up to Alaska. And it really was up to the Army, right? The Navy had basically found out that none of the sensors on this thing were ever actually activated. So no data was ever actually transferred to China. But it didn't stop the fact that the United States and China had their relationships tank, because obviously the United States is going to fucking wonder why China even had a spy balloon sent and floating through the United States. That is a serious, scary situation. So when it comes to these drone spying, let it not be mistaken. The government will take it incredibly serious if they detect any form of espionage, no matter what. So for a lot of the politicians who are investigating this, like Governor Phil Murphy, like they've literally sat down and they've been discussing this with the DHS, the New Jersey offices, to basically come around and figure out what this possible drone activity could be. And there's been a few politicians that have went out of their way to basically look and try to identify just how much of these are actual drones. So one politician, Andy Kim, a New Jersey senator, actually ended up working with the FAA to identify if these were actually drones or if they were possibly manned aircraft. And in this situation, he went down, and one of the things he talked about, while not receiving any feedback from federal officials, I reached out to civilian aviators and others for analysis. So he used public flight tracking tools, which you can use right now, to recreate the conditions of their timeout. So this is one footage captured from Round Valley Reservoir at 9:20 p.m., and he shot this video.
The one low looks pretty cookie.
So here you can see like what appears to again be a piece of aircraft like flying through the air, right? So Andy goes, while I didn't observe a plane in the flight tracker at that moment that night, I was able to pull up a more detailed flight data subsequently and spotted this one small plane taking the path of what was pointed out to me the other night as a possible drone flying near us. So that was a plane captured on like flight tracker. So Andy, I share this because this is kind of the analysis we need but are not getting from the federal government to explain this situation. FAA experts have much more experienced resources to identify aircraft. Instead, I'm left to draw on civilian support and public applications. This is a pretty good point, right? Like when you have to get your information from civilian trackers, or you have to get it from not the federal government, whose kind of job it is to effectively answer these questions to the best of their ability, or relay this to actual politicians that then bring it to the average person. This is what breeds a bit of distrust in the government. And again, this is what gets people into not really trusting, again, the federal government, right? Like they should be the ones providing these answers, and it shouldn't really take a lot of these senators to go out of their way with civilian aviators to figure this stuff out. But then again, this is a situation that will probably take a bit more time for really everybody to get the full breadth of. So you kind of have to look at these situations and give the best possible charity to everyone involved. One of the things I saw on a site known as metabunk.org that actually works to debunk a lot of this stuff was people who actually have a lot of, I guess you could say, confidence discussing these situations when, again, these people are debunked. So, for instance, this one user, Jay, goes, honestly, I have no idea what I saw last night. There's been a lot of speculation, but I can tell you this. I've seen planes before, and I'm very familiar with my area. I've never seen planes fly this slow and this close to the ground. That's not normal behavior for a plane. I'm not a pilot, and I don't claim to know much about planes, but I do know where the usual flights take off, and this was nothing like that. It was really strange. I'm planning to head back out tonight and see if I can spot the same thing again. I've got tons of photos and videos because these things just kept coming over and over, and the thing that really gets me is why it's so quiet. Just so you guys know, there are no airports anywhere near me. None for miles. First off, if this is a plane flying that close, you definitely hear it. Second, this thing doesn't have a paint job. Third, where are the windows? A lot of people are saying it's a plane, but I really don't think so. I could be wrong 100%, but to me, this does not look like a plane. Like, how can you be familiar with your local area flight activity and at the same time not? It's just a weird thing. So one user showcases this, where they're actually showing this plane, or what appears to be this drone, quote unquote, flying through the air.
You're gonna tell me that's a plane?
Pretty close to
With
a
how
plane.
slow
Like,
it's going?
here.
No way. That is a drone, guys, that you're seeing right now.
Now, according to this one user, the Mbake sign in the video locates it to North Arlington, NJ, which is just over 5 miles from Newark Airport. So again, they've calculated the entire flight path going into the actual airport right here. So right in this distance from the actual bakery and cafe, this one sign that they showcased in this video. So right here, this is like the actual sign, Mpabek, right? So again, this plane, if it's going down this area into this actual like airport, that would be, you know, a passenger plane, right? That would just actually be the distance or the normal flight path one would take. And of course, this one user, the person who was like sharing and talking about it, I must have seen over 50 drones tonight. I was live on TikTok and they just kept coming and coming. Well, if they're coming in the same location and direction, it's probably just planes landing and following a general flight path. I mean, this is not a shocking concept. I used to live right underneath the flight path, so I saw a whole bunch of drones going right above my house, one after the other, one after the other. Turns out they were just landing at Pearson International Airport, and they were following a pre-designated flight path. Again, a lot of people have kind of looked at this as like something of a mass hysteria almost, right? And again, something related to this drone incident that I want to kind of remind people of is something that happened about 4 years ago. You might have heard of the Gatwick drone story. So I'm going to go over it with this Wikipedia article to just read you through the liner notes here. Between 19th to 21st December 2018, hundreds of flights were canceled at Gatwick Airport near London, England, following reports of a drone sighting close to the runway. So again, some of the video footage show that that right there, ladies and gentlemen, was in fact the alleged drone. So Gatwick Airport, which is a pretty massive airport south of central London, second busiest airport by total passenger traffic. Basically what had happened was a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of like air traffic was shut down because people were worried that if there was a drone in the airspace, the restricted airspace, the collision could cause serious damage. So on 19 December 2018, shortly after 9 p.m., a security officer reported seeing 2 drones while waiting at a bus stop near Gatwick Airport. One above a vehicle and the other above a nearby perimeter fence. So again, this is when they shut things out. By midnight, 58 flights had been canceled. The sighting of drones were reported up to 9 a.m. the following day. So the following day, Gatwick prepared to reopen the runway several times. Each time, more sightings were reported. And this led police to believe the operator was intentionally disrupting flights and may have access to airport radar or communication systems. No act of terrorism was suspected. Police suspected that any drone would have been of an industrial class. Basically, when they investigated into this disruption, that investigation was like 18 months, 800,000 pounds were spent, and of course 5 different police agencies were brought in. So what was wild is what they had said was 170 drone sightings were reported, 115 were deemed credible by police. But no videos or photographs of the drone were given to the police. And the National Police Air Service was enlisted to search the Gatwick area between December 19th and 31st. So what they found was the investigation had no lack of basically no new information, no culprit or evidence of drone use was ever found. And there was no known photography or video of the drone, and authorities have no official description of the drone. Literally mass hysteria that caused actual serious loss of cash, serious stress for a lot of the, people flying around that time, just because of, again, these drone reports. And what about this suspected drone? I honestly have no idea. If the police couldn't figure it out, I am not sure I can either. There have been other things that have kind of popped up because of this. Like, one of the things I saw on 4chan over the last few days about this was people sharing posts about these weird broadcasts they were getting on their actual radios. So one of the broadcasts was this. Listen to this real quick. It sounds like fucking cats purring over your radio, okay? So on FM 106.7, somewhere on New York's Christmas station, there was some weird audio being played. And it wasn't just here, there was other radio signals like 8 days ago. This was apparently from Seattle. Listen to this real quick too. Now look, it's weird that this stuff is happening around the time of these drones showing up, and it kind of feeds into, again, this mass hysteria, right? Like, are these aliens? What the fuck is actually going on in this situation? And look, the reality of it is with so much confusing information and so much misinformation floating around, right now, according to the government, there's not much anybody has to fear because nothing here so far has been linked to any foreign groups spying on anybody. In reality, there are some explanations. Like, it could be that this is basically drones operating for, whatever company in the United States. Maybe it's a mapping company. Maybe it's any company using a drone. But again, if you're flying a drone at that night, you got to have some clearances for it. So again, if this is commercial activity, the government should be able to stop it, or at least identify who's behind it, for God's sakes. If it is foreign drones, again, the fact that lights are active on almost every drone, if not every single one that I've seen, shows that if this is a foreign spying operation by China or Iran, then both those countries are actually terrible at their fucking jobs, because why would you keep lights on when you're stealthily spying on Americans, right? Like, it just makes no fucking sense. In reality, it seems that in a lot of cases, it could either be very likely a misidentification, which a lot of these drones, and again, throughout most of my video, a lot of these drones really do appear to be actual fixed-wing aircraft that people are just confusing. I mean, you've got people confusing drones that are an obvious flight path. So again, it really requires that extra level of critical thinking to really identify if what you're looking at is a fucking drone in the sky or is it just an airplane? Because at this distance and with the cameras we're using, it really doesn't give enough data or at least some clarity to at least make that distinction. And at the end of the day, if this is the US military testing drones throughout the course of like years, then maybe they should make it as evident as they can. I would expect a lot better out of the US Army. One thing I did see back from 2013 was apparently people had dug up this information. New Jersey selected as a testing site for FAA drone mission. And again, this was all the way back from 2013. Apparently, like, this was posted over here. There's apparently a whole YouTube video that goes along with this as well. And the reality of it is, in December 31st, 2013, the United States government has apparently wanted to expand the use of drones to include commercial private use, and New Jersey is amongst several selected nationwide. This is just an enormous opportunity for New Jersey. And that reality that unmanned aerial systems, UAVs, the technology is there to use them today, but we haven't figured out how to safely integrate them into domestic airspace. Now, here's the thing. If this is actually like the US government allowing more drones into the airspace, into commercial airspace, into allowed airspace, then this wasn't really a state-kept secret if they're willing to be dishonest back in 2013. And in fact, a lot of the politicians who are kind of hyping the situation up, I don't know if they've been in the office since 2013, but if they have, then I feel like spreading mass hysteria isn't really the smartest thing to do. Look, is this alien technology? Probably not. Is this a foreign government spying on you? Probably not. Are these a lot of these misidentifications of actual airplanes? Probably so. But on the few actual reported cases where it does appear to be drone footage itself, and there are actual videos out there of serious drones getting captured, the question has to be asked as to who is really behind this. Look, if people are flying drones and capturing footage, well outside of legal scope, that's something people need to have an answer for, okay? I don't want to jump into these videos and immediately discredit somebody's personal experience because there is obviously at least some element of shadiness behind this. If there are people using these drones to capture footage, I think it's best to know who's doing it and what is the actual purpose for it, right? Do I think that this is some foreign spying operation? Most likely not. But do I want to know the answer of who's flying drones and at least this level of like, at least this amount of drones in an area? Yeah, I do want to know the answer to it. Absolutely. When will we know the answer to it? I'm sure in the next few weeks, the government will come out with some more explanations. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the case of the mysterious New Jersey drones. So if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it, I am out.